There is what I would call the hero journey, the Night Sea journey, the hero quest, where the individual is going to bring forth in his life something that was never beheld before. Joseph Campbell.
You're listening to Writing Roots, brought to you by Aspen House Publishing.
Welcome to Writing Roots. I'm Leigh Hull.
And I'm Leigh Esses.
Don't forget to send us your questions for our December series where we answer your questions about anything writing or publishing related. Send it to us on Facebook, Instagram, or writingroots@aspenhousepublishing.com.
Today we're talking about one of my absolute favorite elements of storytelling, especially as a plotter. We're talking about story structure.
This continues our series about the guidebooks that we have created and published to help you create your stories and keep track of all the different elements. This is a really important one because even if you're a pantser, you need to know the story structure. So as a pantser, I would suggest using this book as you write. So you're logging, okay, so this is where this happens. This is where this happens. This is where this happens. So you can go back and track it for use when you're doing your second draft.
This is also helpful if you're one of those writers that gets all of your ideas in spurts, where you know you really want to have your characters get drunk halfway through Act 2, but you're only a third of the way through Act 1. You can't write that scene yet. You can jot down a note for yourself in order to make sure when you get to that section, oh yeah, I wanted to write this drunk scene.
We would also suggest using this episode or this guidebook before National Novel Writing Month. If you are able to fill in some of these details, you will have a direction to go when you sit down and try to write a novel in a month.
If you're looking for a little more information about how to plot a book, how to structure perhaps your particular story in a unique and interesting way, we do have a series of episodes that we've talked about this concept because, again, it's one of my favorites. The first one I wanted to mention was our Series 21 bonus episode, and that was our Versus series where we each took an opposing point of view. The plot first versus character first episode. So if you're a plot first person, this gives insight into how to structure your plot in order to get your story to move along.
Another episode to reference is Series 6, Episode 4. This was our nitty-gritty series. And the episode is When to Kill a Character. Killing a character is very dependent on placement in the structure and which structure you've chosen to use. Also in Series 6, we have Episode 8, which is the Rule of 3.
We do actually have an episode where we talk about the hero's journey in depth. That is our Season 8 bonus episode. The series was in exploring genres, and the bonus episode was specifically the hero's journey. Not only do we recommend you listen to the bonus episode, which was a fantastic one, but also find the genre that most closely suits you and listen through that one as well.
This notebook is split into 4 different sections. It starts off with the overall plot notes. The very first thing you need to consider when creating a story is the problem and its solution.
Regardless of if you're using the hero's journey or not, this is how you make sure that your story is actually a story being told and you're not rambling at all. Keeping this written down helps you focus on it. The next list is a quick list of the archetypes in the hero's journey. So you can write down which character is going to be the secret ingredient character, which one's going to be the mentor, which one's going to be the romantic interest. This is mostly brainstorming pre-writing.
Remember, some of these characters can play multiple roles. So you can be the secret ingredient and the romantic interest. They don't have to be separate. The next thing that we have you list out in this is the hero's internal struggles and their external struggles.
This may seem like something that you would put in your character definition, in the lie they believe about themselves and their backstory and this and that. That is a different workbook. You can put it in there too. But these are things that change about your character from the beginning to the end. Therefore, they're more plot related and less character definition related. So they're in this book as well.
This kind of fits under the problem solution. So the hero's internal problem and the solution for that. We also include a section for the ticking clock. This is really important in stories where you have a solution. You need something that keeps driving them forward. A final destination, something that even readers can look forward to. So this book, and the structure we're basing it off, is the hero's journey. The idea was outlined by Joseph Campbell, and it comes in several different sections. Each of these are included in a different piece of a 3-act structure.
The other 3 sections are Acts 1, 2, and 3, and they include the information and the notes that I make as I am plotting a book. So in Act 1, the first thing I always mark out is target word count. By the end of this act, I should be at this word count.
If you're like me, you will totally ignore this section, and that's perfectly okay.
Another important thing to introduce is how the world is wrong prior to the events of the story. This is your old world order. This is the dystopian government kidnaps children and forces them to fight each other.
This is where you want to introduce the lie the hero believes about themselves. They are always going to be destined for a life of boring farm work.
Introducing the inciting action and the villain comes next.
And then you have the quest. This is where the quest is given.
Of course, to help along with that quest, we introduce the mentor.
And then the journey begins.
There are 3 trials and failures that happen throughout the story, and the first one happens just after the journey begins.
We also want to make sure that you have somewhere to log all of that information that you need to include in Act 1, but doesn't belong under any one of these other categories. So we have a section that is other information.
One of these is the footholds that you establish in Act 1. The character, turns out, has a knack for cake decorating. And so we're going to put this in the footholds so that in Acts 2 or 3, we can have the character disguise himself as a rock.
In Act 2, Leigh starts it out with a target word count for this act.
So I know how far along I'm supposed to be by the end of Act 2.
Act 2 needs to start out with a false sense of security.
It's okay, someone else can conquer the dragon. When they realize that's broken, they go into a training montage of some kind. This is classic hero's journey stuff. Mentor character helps them learn more.
Shortly after the training montage, they'll run into the second trial.
That trial leads them on a journey. This is when the actual physical travels start to happen.
And this is also where the villain gets a victory somewhere else. They're starting to tighten the screw, and the hero is starting to feel the pressure of the villain's presence.
Act 2, there's a loss of characters that validates why this villain needs to be taken out.
And that comes along with the third trial. This is a trial they're going to lose.
And they'll lose more than ever before, often including and up to the mentor character.
We've also included at the end of this a section for you to continue tracking those footholds. What footholds do you want to establish anew, and which ones do you have paid off?
That leads us into Act 3, which of course has that word count, and should start with your character's darkest hour. They've lost everything. That lie that they believe is proven true.
It's somewhat of a return to the beginning. They're almost resetting, but not quite.
They believe the villain has won. There's no point. I'm just destined to be a farmer for the rest of my life.
And this is where your secret ingredient character or your secret ingredient comes into play.
At that point, they have a new place to attack from, and they confront the villain, and they win this time because they have the secret ingredient. Enter the secret ingredient, and with that comes a new hope. something that gives them a possible chance. The battle plans for the Death Star are in our hands. We might be able to pull this off.
This is where they finally get to confront the villain and win.
This tends to be where I finish the books, but I really should also include these last couple, which include the Victory Parade and the Happily Ever After.
And of course, just like the other acts, we included a section for those footholds, because if you had a foothold, you need to log in here how you're paying off the rest of those footholds that you had established in Act 1 and Act 2.
So in the extended version of this episode, we covered all of these bits and pieces. If you want an extended version of any episode, just shoot us an email. We can send it to you. But for time purposes, I had to cut some pieces out. So fill in with what you want to make sure you cover if you're creating your own, or of course you can pick up our book and then fill out that according to the stories that you tell.
So get out there, structure your story or log it as you're writing it, as I will do, and enjoy the process, explore the characters, explore the structure, really get down to the nitty-gritty, whatever you do, and make sure that you
write selfishly.
If you have a question or comment for our hosts or a topic you'd like us to cover, send us an email at writingroots@aspenhousepublishing.com or find us on Facebook by searching for Aspen House Publishing.